Trying to get my angle right. Got a lot. Got a lot of complaints that the angle, the lighting wasn't great. You know, people think we're trying to be like Steven Spielberg over here, and we're just trying to close the distance. All right. Oh, there we go. All right, I appreciate your prayers as we try to bring Randy onto the feed. Randy doesn't actually have a Facebook account, so he's going to be coming in as Kathy Jackson, who we'd probably much prefer to talk to, but it'd be great to have Randy as well. So yeah, this is great. We had a great turnout last week for Carrie Weatherford. So I think hopefully folks really enjoyed that conversation. She was as charismatic and enticing as usual. Okay, I'm getting some live. We're trying to get Randy on here. We've got some people working behind the scenes. Got a lot of texting. Got some emailing, some phone calls. Hopefully we'll be get him on. Because I know he's primed and ready to go with some great stories. I've got some great questions. We get to hear from him. We're going to hear about some mustache care. If you know of anybody looking to groom their mustache or facial hair, this would be a great conversation. I am not one of them. I'm still looking to be able to grow facial hair. All right. All right. We got my wife on here. This is great. So we've got some prayers. All right, we're T-minus. Got at least I figured out how to use this. The first week was a calamity of errors as we tried to figure out what was going, and hopefully now we've ironed out the kinks. Russell Wilson just got offered a massive contract by the Bears. Yeah, you get it all here, folks. Where's the star? Yeah, we're looking to get the star on here. It's not as intuitive as you might think. And since Randy's kind of new to Facebook, it's going to take him maybe a second. But don't worry, folks. We're going to get him on here. I don't know. I'm a little worried we might shut down the internet once he comes on here. The crowd could be that impressive. Come on, Randy. So I'm back in the church office. Maybe some folks might be interested in see some of the things we have in the church office right now, in my office. We have some teeth, some electronic teeth. Yep, that's one of the things we have here. We have an N95 mask. It's very useful. It's unused. We've got a more of a medical surgical mask there. We've got some rocks here. We've got rocks. Oh, this was a gift one time. This is kind of cool. God lives in those who love coffee. Probably should wash it out, Jeff. We've got a cup holder with the phone number on it. Still no Randy, though. We're working on it, folks. Randy is on the way. Somebody just came in and told me they're on the phone with him, so hopefully we'll have him here soon. Okay, some great suggestions here. Remember, we have a congregational meeting. We have a congregational meeting this Sunday at 7 p.m. It'll be via Zoom. You have to register on the church website before the meeting so you can get the Zoom link, because we just can't have everybody joining us. I know there's so many people in the world that want to be a part of that congregational meeting, but it's only for RPC members, and that's why it's important to become a member. And we're going to do two things. We're going to revise pastors' terms of called, and more importantly, we're going to elect our new class of elders, and we have a fantastic class. We're really excited for them to come and serve. So you're going to want to be a part of that. It shouldn't be too long of a meeting. But it's really important that we're able to conduct the church business and have a quorum for that. So that will be this Sunday at 7 p.m. And then, of course, this Sunday, Lindsay Slocum is going to be preaching. She's got a great text, and I really looking forward to hear what she has to bring us this Sunday at 9 and 11. And you can see in the comments, Lindsay just put a link to where you can go to register for the Zoom, to receive the Zoom link for the congregational meeting. And you'll need to do that before the meeting. So we're still waiting here. Let me see who we... Love to see this great group of folks we have. So we're trying to get Randy on here. I'm not really sure what to do. Well, we've got a great turnout here. We just saw Roswell Presbyterian Church in the comments posted a link you can go and read about each of these individual elders that have been nominated for the class. Okay, so it looks, Randy's actually the joke guy. I'm just the joke myself. So it looks like he's having to download the app. So there's some generational differences here, folks. And this is one of the things it means for us to reach out, to try to get different demographics involved, connect with folks in various ways. I'm, not on, I'm not on TikTok. I just had to draw the line and say, I can't do TikTok. And then somebody said, hey, are you going to do Clubhouse? And then, some other thing. And I just, at some point you got to draw the line. And we're just trying to get Randy to move that line just a little bit, so we can engage in Facebook. And so it looks like, so I'm getting messages that it looks like that they're actually talking to me in their office, in his office, but he's not on. So this is a warm up for him. Major is not on TikTok yet, but he's not old enough to have his own TikTok account, Sally. It's actually really cool. Last night we voted to bring 6 new members into RPC membership, and 2 members are the Paynes. Polly Payne, who used to be on staff here as the director of membership engagement, now lives in Tennessee with her husband, and they want to become members from a distance. About a year ago, they started worshiping with us, and there's no Presbyterian churches in their community, and they said, why don't we just continue to worship virtually? We'll come back at various times and worship for special events in person, but for now we can engage virtually. And so we're really, really excited to have so many folks who've joined over the last year who have want to be in relationship with the RPC community and can do that now because of the virtual technology. And we're hoping that we can continue to grow that even as we come to do more in-person ministry. I promise you folks, we're trying to get this done and get him on here. One of the things I've learned through this is it's very difficult to do Facebook Live on your computer. You really want to do it on your phone. Also, you can register for Holy Week and Easter worship. We, I think, have 5 or 6 Easter sunrise services that are going to be happening all over kind of North Metro Atlanta. All our pastors are going to be deployed to lead those. It's going to be fantastic. People will be able to be outside. And then, if you want to do in-person, we're going to have a few in-person services here at the church, but we really need folks to register for those. But we're really looking forward to that. Lynn, has been a really special time this year. And so we would love to see people join us for worship. Okay, any other questions? We'll take some questions from the peanut gallery if anybody has them. Jeff. I did not give up anything for Lent. I have in the past, but this year I just felt like I've given up so much that I love that it's been like a year of Lent. And so I didn't, but I did try to focus in on what to celebrate and what to focus on, the joys of this time. Oh, what are you drinking? This is water, and we've just had some of the pipes replaced here at the church, and so the water came out full of air, which was kind of disturbing. I was a little worried to drink it, but I was assured by the powers that be that it is safe and you can drink it once the air goes away. So if you're going to do a baptism, if you're going to drink the water is safe, even if it appears to be very milky. It's just the air's got to dissipate. Okay, I've got up to date that Randy is on his Kathy's phone now. It looks like they're about ready to, they're getting closer. They're going to be joining us here soon. So folks, don't go away. This is imminent. This is imminent kind of stuff. Randy will be on. We know the masses are lining up to hear him tell his stories, to tell his jokes, to wax eloquent about ministry. Oh, here we go, folks. Added. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Oh, there is a God.
Yeah. Rome was built less than this.
So the Colosseum has been built. The Colosseum in Rome.
Randy, I know this wasn't easy, so thank you so much.
This is, I tell you what, all of this.
Randy, we got thousands of people gathering around the world to see you on Facebook today.
Well, I hope they're happy.
Yeah, I know. Technology was supposed to make things easier, right?
Well, that's what they say. You get all this technology supposed to make your life easier, and it takes 400 days to come up with something. All it does is make the life easier for folks that won't want to come up with a form for something.
Well, Randy, we do thank you for joining us and really appreciate you. I know it was a stressful deal, but thanks for being here. For folks who may not know, how long have you been serving in ministry, in pastoral ministry?
Well, it seems like forever, but I think it's right at 45 years, maybe 46 years, counting all the time here at Roswell.
Yeah. I was trying to think of how many different places were you a senior pastor at congregations?
Let's see, two places.
Okay. And you have the interesting kind of experience of having started out kind of as an associate, becoming a senior pastor, and now being an associate. And I was an associate for, I think, 10 to 12 years. And it's just a lot different, those different roles. How did you experience the difference between being an associate pastor and being a senior pastor?
Well, you have a more defined role as an associate. As a senior pastor, unfortunately, and fortunately, you're sort of responsible for everything. And you have to delegate a lot of things. As an associate, you have a defined role. You're in in more of a of course the new word is a bubble. You're in more of a one aspect of the church's life. You have input into other areas, but you're really just in your little niche. As a senior pastor, as a head of staff, you got a hand everywhere, and you really need to have that. You don't directly direct everything, directly manage everything, but it's really important to sort of know what's going on everywhere, because you're going to get asked. A lot of folks don't think don't think they've really talked to a pastor unless they talk to the senior pastor, which is sort of interesting. It's just a little different. And part of the great part of being an associate is, the sewer backs up in the middle of a Saturday night. If you're an associate, it's just kind of like, oh well, there you go. If you're the senior pastor, you got to figure it out. You got to call somebody. You got to do something. You got to get with somebody on the staff who's in charge of those kind of things. So there, it's sort of a different role, and especially having retired as a senior pastor and then coming back as an associate, it's really a different role because I'm not trying to be a senior pastor. I'm not thinking ahead to the days when I might be a senior pastor. I've done that, and so I don't have to consider, how I might do things different than you would or any of that. My role, in very serious ways is simply to support you, to support the church, and make your life better. So that's really can be a lot different than an associate that's right out of seminary who one day really wants to be a senior pastor.
Well, and one of the things I've really enjoyed working with you is being able to learn from you and your vast experience. This is my first time, being a senior pastor, being able to say, hey man, what is going on right now? Help me. As you look back at kind of your ministry, what would you say, what's a highlight and what was maybe a low point along the way?
Wow. I think probably the thing that I can share with you the most and probably have is what not to do. Shoot. The low lights, the low times, are the times when when individuals in the congregation, folks in the congregation, become either disenchanted with the church for whatever reason, or disenchanted with you, or become misinformed. When when the direction the church is going is not the way folks want to go, if that happens. The Presbyterian system is a great system if you follow it. And a lot of folks don't realize, that all the committees are we laugh about that and we joke about that, but they're for a reason. And that's what helps, representative wise, everybody sort of get on board. And if folks, sort of get off to the side and sort of take things, in their own, by themselves and try to circumvent the system, it makes things, it really creates havoc. And so the low points have been the very few times, thankfully, in my ministry, and I'm delighted about that. Mm-hmm. When that kind of thing has happened, and then you really have to address those kinds of things, and this. The high points, have been the times when individuals have affirmed me, have affirmed the things that have happened in the church. The real high points have been the times when individuals that didn't think that a change would be something they would like have later said how grateful they were for that change. How when there would be something that would be moderately controversial, and then later somebody would come back and I think have the courage to come back and say, I really was against that, but it was the right thing to do. Because that makes you feel like, even though it may have been controversial, I may in fact have been following God at that point. Mm-hmm. So sure. Presbyterian elders and ministers have it really hard because our call is not necessarily to do what we want to do and not necessarily what we think the congregation wants to do, but do what we think God and what Jesus wants us to do. And that's hard sometimes, and it's not always popular. And it doesn't always, it doesn't always make friends. And we all want to have friends, and we all want to, be liked by people. So.
Sure. Yeah, I think about when Jesus says, "Be wary of when all people speak well of you."
Right. That's right. Yeah. If about 20% of the people are upset, at all times, you're kind of doing a good job. So.
Well, as you have this wealth of experience, what do you think separates RPC, maybe some distinctive characteristics that make it a unique place from your vantage point?
RPC is a great church. It's a wonderful family, where folks can discuss. I use that word instead of argue, but can be on different sides of the same issue, but where they can say, this is not something that's going to damage my faith. I may not think this is smart. I may not like this. I may disagree with you on this biblical premise even. Mm-hmm. But my faith is strong, and my love for people in this family of faith is strong enough to where this is not going to be the thing. I think the amazing sense of volunteers and the need to volunteer that your predecessors and you have built it at Roswell is just remarkable. Almost everybody feels the need to somehow serve, and that's just not the case in a lot of churches. In some churches, it's we pay you, you do the work. Speaking of clergy, and and that's not the case at RPC, folks. To use your term, folks help carry the load, and that's a big deal, and that makes RPC special. There are lots of other things, but this is a special church, and the folks that are in this church, ought to be aware of it and ought to be grateful for it. The leadership that's been here, certainly in Ncaa and in Lane, has been special, and in you as well. And I think, as well as in all the associates, is something to be grateful for and to not take for granted, because it's not like that everywhere you go. And I've served on a committee on ministry, which is the committee of Presbytery that deals with churches and that deals with conflict in churches. And I've seen churches that have just crashed and burned, over what I think were minor little things, but have turned into big things because the spirit was not what it is at Roswell, and it's very special at Roswell.
I totally agree with you, Randy. I served on CON here in the Atlanta Presbytery for 6 years, and when you find a good church, a healthy place, I can't tell you what it means. Well, a lot of people may not know that every Tuesday you meet with a group of guys, and over the last year it's been over Zoom for a Bible study. Could you tell us what that group is like, and then how you prepare for it in your Bible?
Well, it's a wonderful group of guys, and we meet at 10:45 every Tuesday. And if you get there at 10:30, you're late. And when we were meeting in person, we share year-old cookies and coffee, and it's a wonderful fellowship group and a great bunch of guys that love the church and love God and love the Bible and love one another. Mm-hmm. They provide a great fellowship for each other, and a great support group for each other, and just a super group. And by no means did I start that group, but I'm fortunate to be their teacher right now. And although many days I think they're my teacher, but I prepare for it by trying to, give them something. We study various books and whatnot, by trying to give them something that they may not have known before that day. And these are guys that have been studying the Bible for a lot of years, so they know a lot. And so I really have to study a good bit, which is great for me because I love studying the Bible, and I love finding out things that I didn't know before. So that's really important to me. I say to them, and I say to in every Bible class that I ever teach, that because I really believe it to be true, the Bible is made to be interpreted. It's written to be interpreted. It's not it's not a book that you just pick up and read for face value. It wasn't written yesterday, and therefore we read it through a lot of lenses that I think make it come alive and make it rich and real for us, and therefore it means something different today than it meant yesterday, and a century ago, and 2 centuries ago, and it means something for the things that are happening in our lives, just like it did for the things that were happening in our parents' lives and their parents' lives, and so I think that's what makes it so rich and so wonderful and so fun to teach and study. So
absolutely. And
That's a long answer to a short question.
Right. You're a preacher, you know what? What do you
That's right.
How, like, so you've been studying the Bible. Well, I just think several interesting things you said right there. You've been studying the Bible for a long time, yet you're still learning. There's always more to learn, more to interpret and apply. How has your Bible study and maybe process or the materials you engage, how has that adapted and changed over the years?
I, I guess it has. I guess I'm probably more inquisitive now than I used to be.
Hmm.
It's sort of an old joke. It's sort of an old cartoon that children were talking with each other, and they wondered why their parents and grandparents were going to so many Bible studies and studying the Bible so much. And one kid said, "Well, they're studying for their final exam." And in a lot of ways, things become more important to you. And especially those things, the things in life that matter. And so you want to know, you want to know more about them. And because of life experiences, they have different meanings. They mean more. Stories of patriarchs and their children have different meaning to you after you have children, after you go through their adolescent years, after you experience them as adults, than they do before you have children. And so you look at it differently. You look at things differently, and so you study passages and books and things differently as you progress, as you get older, as you mature. So
Absolutely. What's your process for preparing a sermon?
Now or when I was preaching every week?
Yeah, that might be, that's actually a great distinction. Yeah, I mean, how about when you were preaching, for my benefit, preaching every week, and then maybe say how you've adapted for once in a while?
Well, when I was preaching every week, unlike at Roswell, at Roswell we preach sort of a group of series, just one series after another. I primarily, during my ministry, was a lectionary preacher. So the passages are laid out in a 3-year sort of rotating system, and so I knew what they were. Now, occasionally I would preach a series here and there, a summer series, a Lenten series, an Advent series, but for the most part, it was the passages that were prescribed. For folks that don't know, the lectionary is a set group of passages from the Psalms, the Old Testament, New Testament, and Paul's letters and not just Paul's letters, but the letters that tries to get through primarily the whole Bible in over a 3-year time, seasonally, taking note of the seasons of the church year. And so what I would do is I would work 6 weeks ahead. I would work, and I would use Mondays. This is probably too specific, but I would do studying on Monday for 6 weeks, for the week coming up, for 2 weeks coming up, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and 6 weeks, and I would spend increasingly more time on the more current sermon, on the one that is coming that week. Then Tuesdays I would spend 5 weeks, and Wednesdays I would spend 4 weeks, and so by Thursday I would be just working on the sermon for that Sunday. And that way we were able to do the bulletins, which we do on Tuesday, and all the other administrative things that that a lot of folks aren't aware of, that have to be in way before you really want them to be in, and the titles of sermons and all of those kinds of things that are where I always thought that sermons once written created their own titles. Well, that doesn't really work in a church because you've got to have the title way before you've even thought about what the sermon might be about. So sometimes they fit better than others. And so working 6 weeks ahead, just allowing you to know those kinds of things, and that way, when things occurred in life, you'd have a folder. Back when we had folders, now I guess it's something on the computer or something. But there used to be these manila things that you had, but you'd have a folder, and so you'd say, well, that just happened, or this thing in the newspaper, again, something from the past, a newspaper, but you'd have a newspaper article or a cartoon or something that would happen, and you'd place it in that folder down the road, or even sometimes even past 6 weeks when you knew you were going to be saying something during Advent season or something like that. Now, because I have longer between my preaching terms, between my preaching times, as soon as I find out when I'm preaching next, I sort of look at what the passage you've given me and sort of start thinking about it. And so I take a lot longer, take 5 or 6 months. And so, theoretically it should be better. It's probably worse because I'm sort of tired of it by the time the day comes up. But, not really. But and so I don't have to be quite as intensive. When you're the head of staff, that's really what you do. When you're the senior pastor, you preach. The rest of the stuff you kind of have to delegate. When you're not the senior pastor, preaching is not your number one thing, and so you don't spend 20 hours a week on it like you do when you're the senior pastor. You might spend 3 or 1, depending on the week. So it's a lot different in terms of the intensity that you put on it. So
Wow.
That's sort of a nutshell.
No, that's really helpful, and I'll write some of that down. One of the things we've connected over, and I was thinking about the Ncaa tournament starting this week and all that, is we've connected over sports. And I think a lot of people may not know, if they don't know you personally, what sports has meant to you over the course of your life, and how it's an analogy for the life of faith, but also how it's just been meaningful to you in your life. So what has sports meant to you?
Well, sports has been very important to me. I've participated in sports since before I can remember. I think sports teach you a lot of lessons that you can't learn any other way. I know that basketball is your love, and everybody has the sport that they love. I personally think that basketball is a wonderful sport. I played basketball a little bit, not very well. I coached basketball when I was in Memphis as an associate. We had a AAU team, a junior Olympic team, and I was fortunate enough to coach some folks that ended up being NBA players and other players and learn from them. And so I really enjoy basketball and like it, and that. Football is really the sport that I think is especially important, primarily because I think it teaches things that other sports don't. I think it's the ultimate team sport. I think it's probably the one sport where if 11 people are not doing what they're supposed to do exactly at the right time when they're supposed to be doing it, nobody can be successful. And in basketball, you can have your Michael Jordan, and he can be successful, and he can be great, and the team can even be great if only he does what he's supposed to do. Right. That's not true in football, and I think it teaches you that. It teaches you trust. It teaches you, all of those things that it teaches you to overcome things that you otherwise might not be able to overcome. And I think those are life lessons. I think. It teaches you to face adversity and deal with it. and we all face adversity in life, in one place or another. And so, you know, I am a sports fan, and I do think sports are important, and I think they're sort of a metaphor for life. And I think when we, and especially during this COVID time, when we didn't have sports, it felt like in the country that that there was a piece missing, and I don't think just for me. There certainly was for me, but for a lot of folks, there was this piece missing. You know, where we had our outlet. For a lot of folks, you know, that piece might have been something else, but you know, but I think for a lot of folks, it was sports. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, who are you picking to win it all in the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think it'd be very special. I think it would be very special if the same team that won the NCAA National Football Championship won the NCAA National Basketball Championship. So I got to go with the Crimson Tide. I think it's a long shot. I don't think necessarily they're the best team player per player. I think that's probably Gonzaga, but you know, things happen in this tournament when you got to win 6 games, and so you know, I'm picking my Crimson Tide, so we'll see what happens.
That's awesome. Have you always been a Crimson Tide fan?
I have. My parents were just absolutely rabid fans. We had season tickets, you know, from probably before I was born. My parents were alumni. You know, there was nothing of any other team's colors anywhere around us when, you know, growing up. So there was no choice on that, and I really am grateful for that. Otherwise, I would be lost. You know, those who don't love the crimson and white, you know, are lost, I think.
Well, I'll be honest.
But let me also say that I am sort of excited about the possibility of Gonzaga, you know, going undefeated, and I really am excited about Georgia Tech, you know, winning the ACC. That's really special. That's you know, that doesn't happen very much, and so they need to be excited about that.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's great to see Georgia Tech back in it after so long. And I mean, I think Alabama, they've got a strong seed. I mean, they could make a run for it. You know, if some shots go down for you and don't go for the other team, that's the thing with, like you said about basketball. You know, one player can change the whole game.
Right, and one player that's you know, maybe not the star having a great game.
Yep.
And that's what changes it. Yeah, that's what makes it so unpredictable, I think, especially in the tournament.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, as we wrap up here, we made a lot of promises in our previews that you were going to be giving some mustache hair advice. So first, when did you grow the mustache?
Well, I first grew it in 1972. It was a fraternity party. We did a southern riverboat party where we all dressed up like riverboat gamblers, and we all grew mustaches, even though most of us couldn't grow mustaches. And you know, and it sort of just became the thing. I have cut it one time since then, and it scared my children so much that that I had to immediately grow it back, and so I've just kept it. You know, it's you know, I don't necessarily think it looks that great, but I keep it.
Well, I got to say, a lot of people love your mustache mask as well.
Oh, I saw that. I don't even really remember where I saw it. I saw it on a rack somewhere in one of those, you know, buy a mask racks, and I had to have it. So so this is perfect, you know.
That's awesome. Well, Randy, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad we were able to get you on Facebook Live today. And thank you. A lot of prayers.
That's a miracle in itself.
Indeed. Well, thanks for helping us as we're trying to close the distance this year. So we'll see you soon. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate it.
All right. See you soon. Bye-bye. Thanks for being here, folks.